Coach Action Jackson here, and I'm here with another episode of Client Success Stories. I've got Derek here because Derek did so well, I wanted to bring him on and share his story. Derek lost 13 pounds. He lost 2.6% body fat. More importantly, he added 1.5 pounds of muscle. I'm super proud of this guy. I'm excited to bring his story to you. So Derek, welcome to the program. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Jackson. So my name is Derek Giovani. I hail from Sacramento, California. Well, I guess part of my journey, when I was a kid, I had a really good metabolism and kind of hung with me. So I was eating a lot of good stuff, eating a lot of bad food, a lot of chocolate, a lot of pizza, and my body just said, "Hey, no problem. We'll work with it," But as I got older, my metabolism definitely slowed down a bit. I think what really happened to me was my family, diabetes runs in the family. And even though my diabetes numbers were always, right where the line was good, probably the last 3 or 4 years, the A1C number jumped, right? And my doctor kind of had me on the plan to, you want to take some medication, you want to watch what you eat, sugar wise and things like that. Well, at the same time, about 2 years ago, when the pandemic hit, my wife, I got to give her some credit here. My wife was the one that wanted to bring Tonal into the house. And back when that happened, I was like, I don't know, I don't know if I really want to do anything. Kind of want to sit on my butt, I'm going to watch what I eat, but I'm not really going to do much. Right. But then I don't know, something like 2.5 years ago, something clicked. And I'm like, you know what, that A1C, I'm going to try my hardest to control it. I'm going to do what I can do to control this through diet and exercise. So right around that point when Tonal came in to the house and my wife and I signed up, we started using it, and we started using it every day. And at the beginning of that journey, it was a lot about, oh boy, now I have to wake up in the morning and, find an hour to exercise. And I'd say about 6-7 months into that journey, something clicked. It was weird, right? So instead of having to get up to exercise, I wanted to get up. It happened. It's weird. It's like the bug, it hit. So I just started working out, doing all the programs on Tonal. And, as we do, we gravitate toward our favorite coaches. And somewhere along the line, my wife also sent me a link and a copy of your Amazon page to your book. And she's like, hey, maybe there's something in here to check out, see if Jackson can make some good recommendations for eating. Because I was still trying to figure out eating at the time. So I read your book and I was like, okay, this is Jackson Means Business. A lot of good feedback in the Tonal community with regards to your programs specifically. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get up there and I'm gonna start working out, and I'm gonna make it a goal to complete some of Jackson's advanced training programs. And it took a while, because when I started the journey, I was definitely a little bit weaker, but I don't know, there's something clicked. I got into the advanced programs, and then I got into one of your advanced programs and I got through it. And that was a huge accomplishment for me, because there was a point where there's no way I would ever be able to do one of the workouts in that program. So once I got through that, I felt a huge sense of accomplishment. Reached out to you and you kind of gave me some really good feedback. And we went back and forth a little bit, and you talked about your program. And I knew, I'm like, well, if Jackson's program is anything like his workouts, this is probably a good place to be. So, so that's kind of why I jumped on to your program, and, and I continued my journey, and it's great. The program has been wonderful. So that's kind of my background, a little bit of personal stuff. So, I got a beautiful daughter here, and, she's awesome. I would say my hobbies are obviously photography and now fitness, which is kind of cool. Those are my two passions right now, photography and fitness.
That's obviously an incredible story, and thank you for sharing. And I guess the thing that when I hear that I really think of is somebody at home is going to be listening, and maybe they're in that position you were in way, way, way back where you're like, hey, I'm just going to sit on the couch and I'm just going to eat healthy and focus on that. How did you go from that to getting up and using the tonal and taking action, right? As we say, action is the difference around here. But how did you get to that point of taking action and then kind of building the momentum? Because you built momentum and you went from basically beginner, not doing anything, to working out on tonal, to doing my advanced program, so then joining my coaching program. And I mean, you've just escalated this really, really well and scaled this to the moon. But how did you get started, and what was that like? What was the mindset? What was the motivating factor or the driving factor that really kickstarted you to move?
So I would say in the past, I have I have gone back and forth between not working out and working out, right? And I am a rule follower. Everybody in my family will attest to the fact that I'm a rule follower. Um, so the last couple times I kind of jumped back onto the bandwagon and I started working out. I would focus on very specific things. So like running, for example, was something that I tried. I don't have the best knees, and it doesn't really allow for me to do that. So then, and as things go, I said, okay, that's not going to work out. Let's sit back down on the couch. I don't know. There's just something about tonal. The reason why I really like tonal is because it allowed for me to establish a good set of rules for myself to jump back into working out. But more importantly, the reason why I love tonal is because the workouts are different, right? So you never feel like you're being pigeonholed into something that is familiar or the same. It's always an adventure when it comes to tonal. When you're gonna sign up for a program, you have no idea what you're gonna get into, right? It's gonna be completely new, and that actually helped me a lot, right? So it was like an adventure. I always felt like this time around, it was less monotonous, and it was more of an adventure, and that helped me to kind of just keep going. That's the best way I can describe it. And I think it's important, and I'll reiterate it again. So if you're really thinking about using this system, and you start out, you're going to have a couple. At least for me, it took me, like I said, 6 months. But it was just that little. You have the angel and the devil, right? One of them was saying just stop, but the other one was like, hey, if you just keep going, let's see what happens. Just stick with this. You might actually catch the bug. And like I said, 6 months in, with all the different programs, all the different coaches, that really helped me to understand that it's just an adventure. And then, and the one thing that was nice about your program that I really liked is that it's nice to have all of that information on tonal. But with your program, it was just really nice to be able to have access to you. You're always really good. If there's a question, if something's not working quite right, I could reach out to you, and you'd help me. You'd guide me along the journey, and you would help to steer the course. Another thing that I loved about your program is the community aspect of it. It's just, I don't know, there's just something about, you work out, and then after your workout, you go into the community a little bit, and everybody's working out with you. And it's just, I don't know, there's just something about the community aspect that makes you want to work harder. And it worked. And for me, it absolutely worked. So it was kind of a combination of being a rule follower, creating an adventure, and then having this community and mindset through your program that really helped me just keep going.
Wow. One of the things you mentioned there was the adventurous mindset. And I think that's something that's easy to just gloss over, but I think it's really important because a lot of people go into these journeys and it doesn't work out at first, or it's hard at first, and they want to quit and give up. And to just kind of flip the switch a little bit, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to get this right away, or I'm going to improve, or I'm going to lose 10 pounds right away, or gain 10 pounds of muscle right away. You said, look, I'm going to attack this. I'm going to go for it. Not going to be easy, but I'm just going to have an adventurous mindset about it, or a curious mindset about it. I'm just going to see what happens, and maybe I'll catch the bug, right? wasn't overly ambitious or crazy, maybe I'll catch the bug. And just by kind of changing your perspective a little bit, you were able to keep going, stay consistent, which is so important. And then bam, as you mentioned, the switch flipped, and here you are, months and months later, years later maybe, and you're still at it, and you're improving, and you're pushing, and that's just fantastic. The other thing you mentioned is obviously the community, and I think so many people lack the type of support around them. So many people and I'm not saying this is you, but so many people that do these sort of interviews with me and join the program, when they tell their friends or their family or the people around them sometimes, hey, I'm going to do this program, they get funny looks, or people say, well, why would you do that? And to then join a group where everybody's sort of just positive and supportive and pushing each other and challenging each other and helping and supporting, it's incredible. And I'm just such a big believer in groups, for two big reasons. The first is that I've never seen my dad touch a drop of alcohol in my entire life, and I'm 41. And that's because prior to me being born, he joined AA and it was able to change his habits and change his behaviors. When you join a group where your desired behavior or your outcome is the norm, oftentimes it's going to stick. And that worked for him. And that's one of the reasons why I'm such a big believer in groups. And the other is that when I quit my job and I decided to get into fitness, I joined a group of trainers at Diacati in San Francisco, where I met all the other original Tonal coaches. And I didn't even know this job, like being a personal trainer, I didn't even know that really existed outside of 24-hour fitness or LA Fitness, where people are making $10 an hour. And typically, nothing against anyone that does that, but typically you don't think those people know a lot about fitness. And to see a bunch of people who are making really good money, who are helping people, who are smart and educated and knowledgeable, it just blew my mind. I didn't even know the job existed. And I was like, I need to be here. And if it wasn't for that group, I wouldn't be talking to you today. That's for sure. And I never would have gotten hooked up with Tonal. So that's just some incredible stuff that you just shared. So I appreciate that. Now, one thing I do want to mention, and we chatted about this before we turn the camera on here, was for you, we have some people on here who 40 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, all this kind of crazy stuff. You were already quite far along on your journey when we decided to work together. So talk to me about the mindset, the motivation, the reason for wanting to join, because your transformation is great. I mean, you look fantastic. You mentioned, the results, 13 pounds down, 2.6% body fat, 1.5 pounds of muscle, which is fantastic in just a 16-week period. But your goals weren't quite as big or as huge as some of the people that, joined the program that we work with. So what was the drive for you to want to join, to kind of just go from like that good to great position?
Well, to start off, when I first started Tonal, I was 207 pounds, and my BMI was off the charts. So I was able to cut, I was able to cut about 50 pounds myself, and I got to the point where I didn't know what to do. And the problem that I was having was, you got YouTube University, which is a great tool. I mean, like YouTube has, if you want to learn how to do anything, right, you go to YouTube. That's where I go. But the problem with health and fitness is that when you go to YouTube, you got 75,000 people that all claim to be health experts that want to sell you whatever they're doing. And a lot of the information is good, but you don't really know what's really good, right? But I think so. What happened was I got down to goal weight, and I was maintaining it. But then there was a nutrition store in the area that I started going into, because I was trying to figure out what's the proper way to bulk and cut. Right? I read your book. Your book has a lot of great information, but then I went into this nutrition store, and they had recommended. They saw my numbers and they said, "Okay, man, you're ready to bulk. No problem. Let's do it." And I gave them my macros, and the macros were pretty strict, kind of like what you were recommending in your program. I was trying to follow your numbers, and they said, "Hey, it's time to bulk. Let's do it. You're working out enough. Let's." I don't remember how many extra calories they were suggesting, but they suggested something that was really outside of the scope of what I should have been doing. So I followed their suggestions and I gained, I don't know, I gained I was like 13, 14 pounds. And I thought I was on the right track, but then that's kind of where we met up. And I showed you those numbers and you're like, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's the right approach. So, I said, yeah, I think it was too early. It was either too early to bulk or it was too much of a bulk, right? So, jumped back onto your program. I'm really glad I did because the I think of all the things I was really looking forward to the most, it was the nutrition aspect of this course, right? I knew I was working out on tonal. I knew you were going to throw some good stuff at me when it came to tonal, but I was really excited about what you were going to tell me about what I was doing wrong with my approach to eating. And when I got back on, when I got onto your program, you kind of got me back on track with what your book was suggesting, which was, you have your phased approach to macros and nutrition, the four phased approach. Got back Once I got back onto that, I was able to cut those 13 pounds. And then by the time I was at the end of the program and you were having me do the bulking aspect of it, I haven't gained the weight back. That's the most important thing, right? I haven't gained the weight back. That is that and that in all of it right there is why I think this program was a success.
Fantastic. I love that. And I think that's a very common problem is people, especially a lot of guys who want to cut then bulk, they will transition way too hard from one to the other. It's like a 180, a light switch. It's left and it's hard right. And you can't transition like that because your metabolism is not set up for it. When you cut down and if you're dieting or restricting your calories and following a plan and you're losing body fat, that's fantastic. Great. You obviously want to make sure that you're getting enough calories and enough protein, especially so that you're not losing any muscle, and ideally trying to maintain as much strength as possible. But what happens then is your metabolism is going to slowly come down a bit. And then it's the rebound weight that's the problem. So now what happens to a lot of people is that they'll kind of go back to eating like normal and then they'll gain a lot of weight back, if not all of it or more. And with guys that want to bulk, they'll switch to a bulking protocol, start jacking up their calories, right? They'll change their training a bit often as well. So now they're burning less calories during their training. They're trying to lift heavy and do all these kinds of things. And then they're eating way more carbohydrates. They say, oh, dessert, well, I can have that because I'm quote unquote bulking. And the next thing you know, they just start putting the body fat back on very, very rapidly. And when you're doing a bulk, trying to gain size, trying to gain muscle, you want to be kind of at just maybe slightly above your maintenance calories. You can certainly do it at maintenance calories and do a body recomposition, but just slightly. We're talking like maybe 3, 5, 6% above your maintenance calories, 8 at the most. You don't want to be 10, 15, 20% above your maintenance calories because if you do, what's going to end up happening is you're going to gain a lot of body fat on very quickly, and then you're going to have to cut again or get rid of that body fat at some point. And especially if you started lean, it's going to be a problem because then you're going to add on body fat, new body fat cells, and you can't get rid of those cells. They'll shrink, but you can't get rid of them. So that could be a problematic. And for you, you lost 50 pounds. So now you had to work so hard to lose that, and to put it back on, it's just devastating. So we take a little bit of a softer approach. We cut down, absolutely, but then we make a slow transition into the recomp or the bulk so that we're not getting that rebound weight. And that way it's a nice smooth transition and you start to fill out and add on some mass without all the extra body fat, which is great. So, and you also have to account for the fact that you might be burning less calories in your training if you switch from something more metabolic to something that's a little bit more hypertrophy focused. So, wow. So what a fantastic journey. And again, the results have been fantastic. What were some obstacles that you might have faced along the way, and how did you overcome those? Because nobody's journey is as smooth sailing as everyone thinks, right? You see the before and after photos, you hear the stats. Holy cow, this is amazing, but it's never that smooth.
Well, like I said, I'm a rule follower. So when you gave me a list of things to do every day, I really wanted to do it, right? That it's just the way it's my nature, right? the biggest, they had actually two challenges. The first challenge obviously was the travel aspect, right? We had things that came up, and it's just one of those things with tonal. It's like you once you get that bug, you don't. It's like you want to put tonal in your pocket and take it with you because you feel like you're missing out, right? And I know everybody in the community always says, "Hey, you got tonal on your phone," and you definitely do, right? You find a kettlebell, just go run a mile. There are things that you can do while you're traveling to make up for it. But it's just, I don't know. There was just something about missing those workouts. It's like, I don't want to miss them because they're important, right? So that was a big aspect of it. And then the other, you'll like this story. So right in the middle of right in the middle of this program, we had some construction work in the house, and our contractor was going to need full access to the room that had the tonal in it. I told my wife, I said, we got to move that tonal because I have to have access to that tonal. I was afraid that I was going to lose it in the middle of this program. So that was kind of funny. But we made it a priority. And that's important, right? You got, if it's important, you got to prioritize this stuff. And we did. I got tonal on the horn, and I said, hey, you guys got to come out here and move this thing today because I can't miss my training. It's important to me. So that was definitely the biggest challenge. But it wasn't a big deal because I made up for it by moving the actual training sessions until I got back from where I was traveling. Or like I said, you just, when we were in New York City and you're walking, I don't know, 30,000 steps a day anyway. I mean, it's not like you just find a kettlebell and it's almost the same thing, I guess, but not quite. But it wasn't like I was sitting on my butt. But that being said, that's definitely the biggest challenge of any program.
Traveling can definitely be a bit of a constraint and a challenge for people. Now, a little bit of travel here and there, these types of things, not a big deal. Extensive travel can be a little bit more of a concern or an issue, but we've absolutely had some people that have done those things too. I used to travel as a consultant for Accenture, so there absolutely is ways to overcome it. As to your point, if you prioritize it. As one of my baseball coaches used to say when I was it was Babe Ruth, I think 13 years old, he used to say, the will to win is not nearly as important as the will to prepare to win. Meaning, if you put in the preparation time, find a gym, grocery store, whatever it is, think through these things, have a little bit of a plan of attack, then when you are traveling, you can make sure you're either still getting in your workouts or you're getting in your steps, or you're not, going crazy on your diet, and you're going to be just fine. And you'll be able to pick up as soon as you get back, and you're not going to sort of miss out on anything. So that's fantastic. Any other breakthroughs, things you want to mention? Mindset stuff is big for a lot of people. What was that? How did that impact you?
So I have, two things. And the first one will go back to my inability to run. So I have my IT bands. My leg muscles are a little weak, right? So I got to be really careful when I run. But what I noticed after this program is that when we went out and we ran the other day, I started running, and it's funny. I didn't even have to start running. I didn't have to prepare to run. I was already conditioned to run, even though I haven't been running. And I don't know, there's just something really cool about that, right? I've been focusing. So, the HIIT stuff is great. Getting the heart rate up, and that definitely helps. I think in the running aspect and the cardio aspect as well. But I think a lot of that weight training, just working the legs and working your body, it just conditions your body to do other things. So the running was great. And then the other thing that I did want to mention was, so I'm a photographer. I got two passions in my life. I used to have one. My first passion is photography, and I have a successful photography studio in Sacramento, California. The second passion that I have now is fitness, right? So I have two things that I love. And the issue that I was having with photography is that when I was 50 pounds heavier, I'd be carrying around all this gear and, setting things up. And after a while, like 20 minutes, I get winded, right? And when that happens, it's like you almost fall out of love with the stuff you love, right? I'm like, I was just miserable. Well, once I started doing this program and really getting just like getting in shape, it's like now when I do those same photo shoots, I'm carrying around this gear. I'm like, it's like nothing. And that is a huge victory. That allows for me to take what I love and really do a great job at it. I completely, I attribute that to Tonal. I attribute that to you and your program. Absolutely.
I love that. That is fantastic. And I think a lot of people don't realize that you can absolutely get good quality cardio. And I'm not saying cardio is bad for you. I do cardio myself. We have a Peloton. I'll go for rucks, walks with, our dog, stuff like that. But you can get a ton of cardio in from strength training. And when you're doing strength training, and especially if you do it in a very particular way, you can absolutely improve your cardiovascular. And then when you go back to running, like many of our clients have experienced, whether it's you, our client Kelvin, who ran a 5K and just crushed his PR for a 5K, you'll see massive improvements because you're stronger, you're powerful, your endurance is there, and your cardiovascular has improved so much. And then the other point you mentioned, which is just finding ways that fitness improves other aspects of your life. You think, oh, well, I'm going to get really good at being in the gym or working out on Tonal. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's going to benefit you in other areas of your life. And I always like to frame it in my mind as like, I push myself here, working out here, so that I can be better out there in the real world, whether it's dealing with my emotions or pushing through on something difficult, whether it's a long work day like today, and then I got to do a podcast like this at night, and I got to find some way of digging down and getting the energy and going for it. I learned that through my workouts. And then all of a sudden I apply it to other areas of my life. And I'm like, wow, I'm so much better. I show up better. I have more energy, more confidence. And I'm just an all around better human being when I'm working out and I'm more fit because the way it bleeds into areas of my life. So I love that. It's fantastic. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. I do appreciate you. So I want to take just a second to acknowledge you, how thankful I am, how much I appreciate you. It always kind of gets me emotional at this point when I acknowledge my clients, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here doing this. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be living my dreams. You're helping me live my dreams. And hopefully, in some small way, I'm helping you live yours. So thank you so much for trusting me, investing in yourself, for joining the program, for putting in so much effort, hard work, and of course, for being willing to share your story here today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any last final words out there for anybody listening, watching? Anything we didn't cover?
No, just I really am honored that I had the chance to work with you. Like I said, I did, was it 4 weeks to fat loss, posted in the Tonal community. Hey, got through with it. You reached out and we started chatting. I'm sure glad we did, because it continued my journey. And that's the most important thing too. I guess when it came to maintenance in the past, I have a motto now. There's no such thing as maintenance. You can't get into that mindset. You can never think that you're done with something. The journey does not end. And that's why I was glad that I got to do this program, because it got to allow for me to continue with what I love, which is continuing the journey.
Yeah, you're right about that. So the couple things I like to think about there is, number one, making sure you could find a way to enjoy the journey, because the journey's not ending. We're going to be eating for the rest of our life. Ideally, we're going to be training for as much of our lives as we possibly can. And because of that, we have to find tools, resources, skills, habits, and things that are going to serve us for the rest of our life. So finding a diet and doing keto or paleo, or cutting out all carbs, for a certain period of time, or doing a crash diet or a detox, that's not going to help you in the long run, because that's not going to be something that you can sustain forever. And you need to find a strategy that you can do forever, so that you can obviously not only get results, but maintain those results. And that's really what we want to do. We want to enjoy the journey. We want to get rid of the guilt and the shame and this whole sort of on or off, black and white, all in, all out mentality. And we want to understand that there's going to be seasons of life where you're really invested, you're working out maybe 4 or 5 days a week, and sometimes where maybe it's only 2 or 3, but we're always continuing the journey, right? I heard this analogy the other day and I absolutely love it. So I'm so glad I get to share it today, which is, you might be on the wagon, you might be off the wagon sometimes, but no matter what, under any circumstances, do you abandon the wagon? And if you just think about that old game I used to play when I was a kid, Oregon Trail, you might be on the Oregon Trail, you break an axle, you fix it, you break a wheel, you fix it. But if you abandon your wagon, somebody's going to steal all your supplies and then you're going to die. So no matter what, never abandon the wagon and you're going to be just fine. So thanks again, Derek. I appreciate you again from the bottom of my heart. And remember, everyone out there, action is the difference between dreaming and succeeding. See you in the next one.